was reading about myths tonight, and the myth I read was Bluebeard. And the very quick synopsis of Bluebeard is that he is kind of a strange man who literally has an inky blue beard. And he comes to court three sisters. He takes them riding, and the horses they have beautiful ribbons in their hair. And they go riding all day, and their dogs are there. They have a beautiful picnic. And when they get back, the two older sisters are like, nope, I'm out. And the youngest sister was like, well, he's not so strange. She says his beard isn't that blue. And so she agrees to his courting and then summarily marries him. He's going away. He says, you can do whatever you like. You can make a feast for your sisters. The only thing I ask you to do is not go in that uppermost room. Here are the keys, open every door, but I'm trusting you to not go in that uppermost room. So she has her sisters over, they have a feast, and they start to get curious. So they explore the whole castle, they see all these rooms piled with gold, and they marvel at their sister's good fortune. Of course, they make their way up to the forbidden room, and they use this tiny little key that they figure out after using all the other keys, that this is the key that opens that room. And they look at each other and they know somehow to open that door. They open the door, and it's covered in blood, and it's the corpses of all his other wives. So of course they flee, and she notices, the young girl notices, the youngest sister, notices the key is bleeding drops of blood. She tries to scour it, she tries to pack it with ashes, and it stains everything. She puts it in her closet, and her whole dresses get stained. Her husband returns from the trip. He says, how was it? She says everything was fine. He says, can I have my keys back? She returns his keys. He said, I think there's one missing. And the key shows up, and of course it's in a pool of blood, so he knows she's been in the room. And of course he drops his facade and says, and now you will join all the other women that couldn't be trusted, that were my wives, who had to know what was in that room too. She calls out to her sisters, are my brothers coming? And they say, no, we don't see them. And he's walking down the hall, getting closer to her. And she calls out again, are my brothers coming? And they say, no, we don't hear them, we don't see them. And so now he's right outside the door. And she said, are my brothers coming? And they say, they are at the gate. And they bust in and they kill him, and they save their little sister. So the beautiful thing about myths is everything is you in the myth. So what I take from it is, when a woman does not listen to her intuition, which is her sisters, and she falls for this fantasy fairy tale that she's been taught to want, you start to rationalize that his beard isn't so blue. And the villain is also not necessarily a man. He is the unexamined. He is the false promise. So she had enough wherewithal to still desire to know what was in that room, even though she knew it was forbidden. And everything in her was warned that you should not go in there. And yet she did have the courage to face the unknown. And the unknown was horrifying. And the unknown put her in grave peril. And then the brothers, which is also internally her, it's her animus, it's the man inside, that until a woman decides that she is able to rescue herself and that she is safe within herself, she will never be able to penetrate and be rescued. So not only was the youngest sister able to face the danger, also be tempted by the world, be tempted by the lie, as we all are. Every single one of us, every single day, is tempted by a lie, a rationale, something that we know better than. And our alarm bells go off and we squish them. And the sisters represent their intuition. When you really finally stand up and listen, she had the courage to go and face the unfaceable, to look the horror in the face and stand in it. And then she had the wherewithal to call for her brother, her internal man, to come and rescue her and make her whole and vanquish the foe, meaning see the truth. So, first of all, the richness of myths, any myth, but there's so many lessons in there. And it depends on where you're at. Are you at the point where you are willing to look at what's under the lie that you've been sold or that you've swallowed or that you've been taught to swallow? Are you standing in the room with the blood and the gore and you see everything for the lie that it is, and you are courageous enough to stand in that blood and look at it and call it out for what it is? Are you in a place where your intuition is so accurate where you're like, nah, that guy's not for me? The theoretical Bluebeard or whatever Bluebeard represents for you, that's not for me. Or are you in a place where you are bringing forth your inner masculine in an attempt to balance where you know you are the rescuer that you desire? Doesn't matter where you are in that journey. They are all necessary places to go. And that is something, like the use of myth in where you are in the journey, almost all of them contain a small portion of the hero's journey, which is, you embark on the voyage, you face adversity, you almost give up, you face death, and you are reborn. And then you return home with the knowledge and the new paradigm that you're in. So I ask you, where are you in your journey? Which of those elements within that story do you relate to? Because I guarantee with not too much introspection, with just a little introspection, you can figure out which place you slot into. And so that is what came up for me today. And I will continue occasionally to bring you thoughts from the things that I'm reading and the way that I'm interpreting them, and what comes up for me with that too. And I would love to know which part of the story are you at? Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you tomorrow.